Candyman.
Candyman Anatomy Explored. How does the physiology of this demonic monstrosity work? Based on Clive Barker's story titled The Forbidden, the Candyman franchise is one of the best movies in the body horror genre, and it is known for its gory and gruesome scenes that shock the audience. The titular protagonist, Candyman, is known for his unique anatomical features, and he often uses the features in a way that make him a pretty scary entity. From using a hook on his hand to mutilate his victims, to controlling bees and even letting them crawl over his skin, Candyman literally personifies the body horror genre. He also has quite a sad, tragic story that shaped him into the demonic entity that he is today. And today we will explore his character and tell you all about Candyman. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. So thank you, and let's begin. Who is Candyman, and what is his basic appearance? While it is popularly known that saying his name 5 times in front of the mirror would summon the Candyman, he was not always a demonic entity. According to an urban legend, Daniel's father was a poor slave who later became rich after creating a machine for mass-producing shoes. Daniel then lived comfortably and even received a good education in the best schools in America. He grew up as a kid and well-natured man, and even became a famous painter known for capturing his subjects' true nature in his portraits. In the 1890s, a landowner hired Daniel to paint his young daughter, Caroline Sullivan. Daniel and Caroline soon ended up falling in love, and Caroline even ended up pregnant after the two engaged in intimate relations. However, Caroline's father was against the relationship, and he even hired a mob to go after Daniel and end his life. The gang chased after Daniel and finally cornered him, and even used a blade to cut off his right hand. After cutting the painter's hand, the gang of criminals even covered his body in honey, leaving him to die cruelly by unleashing a swarm of bees around him. Daniel was then stung to death while the mob surrounded him and chanted the word Candyman as he took his last breath. After Daniel's death, his body was burned on a pier and his ashes were scattered all around this region in Chicago. The second Candyman movie slightly tweaked his origins and changed his location of the story. It stated that Daniel's body was buried in a grave in New Orleans. It was later revealed that Daniel's ghost rose from his grave and returned to life as a vengeful monster determined to kill anyone who questioned his existence. This event gave rise to the stories that stated that Candyman appears and murders anyone who recites his name 5 times and then turns off the lights. Many of the Candyman movies revolved around a premise wherein the protagonist tried to test this theory and went ahead with the process of reciting his name, thereby bringing his spirit to life and unleashing death and destruction around them. Daniel usually appeared as a tall African-American male, and he was roughly around 6 feet 5 inches tall. He wore an oversized brown trench coat made of fur, leather shoes, gray pants, and a white cravat around his neck. Candyman had short, curly black hair on his head. He also had some distinct physical features, such as a hook instead of a right hand, and he usually used his trench coat to cover his hook. He even had some scars on his body from the time that he had died after being stung to death. And he also had a skinless ribcage and a hollow abdomen due to the bee's attack. A hive had formed in the place of his mutilated stomach, and one could even see live honeybees inside of the hollow stomach in some scenes. Candyman usually had a self-absorbed and vain personality, and his sole purpose was to keep the story surrounding him alive and to ensure that people did not forget him. He was also quite powerful, and he had super strength and speed as well as other powers, such as the ability to teleport to any location or even fly and levitate after returning from the dead. He could even turn himself invisible and had a regenerative healing factor that made him quite invulnerable. How does the sharp hook on his arm work? After the mob cut off Candyman's right hand while attacking him, he replaced the arm with a hook after returning to life. Candyman usually covered this hook with his long trench coat, and it essentially acted as a replacement for his hand. Candyman's hook was not just for show, though. He could wield it as a weapon, and he often used this hook to catch up with his victims and even attack them. The hook on his arm served as a weapon that he could use to mutilate or even slaughter his victims, and it even became a signature part of his look. Can Candyman really control bees? Candyman had the ability to control a massive swarm of bees, and he had once even unleashed killer bees all over an entire city. A swarm of bees follow Candyman wherever he goes, which symbolizes his death after being stung by them. These bees are also a reflection of Candyman's own personality, as these bees are rare species that even symbolize gaining personal power. The 2021 Candyman movie used CGI bees, while the original film actually used more than 200,000 bees. The entire crew and production members wore special suits to prevent themselves from getting stung, and there was a specialized trainer to control these bees. The actor Tony Todd had initially even demanded around $8,000 for each bee sting that he would have had to endure, but he later stated that he understood how essential this was for the character and that he would eventually embrace the role of bees in Candyman's overall storyline. In one particular scene, in the original film's finale, Candyman hurls bees out of his mouth and directs them at Helen. The actor even revealed that he had to hold actual bees in his mouth during the scene and used protective mouthpiece to ensure that the bees didn't harm him. He later revealed that it took over a half an hour to get all the bees out of his mouth and that he even suffered a couple of bee stings inside, but his hard work did pay off as this scene became quite an iconic moment in the body horror genre. Candyman was usually surrounded by a swarm of bees no matter where he went, and it symbolized his power in reawakening after being stung to death.
Surrender to me now, and he shall be unharmed.
Is it possible for Candyman to reproduce? Candyman used to be a human named Daniel Robitaille, and he was even renowned for his paintings. After falling in love with the landowner's daughter and even conceiving a child with her, Daniel died a tragic death after the landowner sent a mob after him and ensured that he lived no more. While he was a human, Daniel could indeed reproduce like any other human being and even had intimate relations. However, it seems unlikely that reproduction was something that ever crossed his vengeful mind after he returned from the dead as Candyman, and he never pursued any romantic relations or fathered any children in the form of this demonic entity. Does Candyman kill just about anyone? Candyman usually killed people who made a mistake of summoning him by saying his name in a mirror or doubted his existence, and his sole purpose was to ensure that the rumors about him should not stop. He did not kill any of his believers after they lost faith in him, nor did he just mindlessly kill anyone who tried to summon him. Instead, he chose to kill people who declared that they did not believe in him or thought that his name was just a local legend or a superstition. In fact, Candyman's target in the first movie was Helen Kyle, who had told a young boy that Candyman was just a fake identity created by a serial killer to get away with their crimes, a higher power ensuring justice in society, and he went after people who abused the system and oppressed others. Is Candyman really immortal? After returning from the dead, it was established that Candyman is really immortal since he has been around for centuries. Moreover, he also doesn't seem to age with time like regular humans and does not need food or water to survive. He has haunted children and adults alike for centuries and has always returned whenever someone summons his name by saying his name in the front of the mirror. Haunt more people.
No!
How can Candyman be destroyed? After returning to life, Candyman displayed a lot of powers ranging from super strength to regenerative healing, and it even suggested that he is nearly invulnerable. He had a very high pain tolerance and could even recover from serious injuries swiftly, making it quite difficult to destroy him. Candyman can still be destroyed in some ways, and one of the easiest ways to defeat him is by merely forgetting his existence. Of course, the easiest way to do that is by doing anything but saying his name aloud in front of a mirror. Since Candyman thrives on others' fears and depends on people to summon him through the mirror or keep the fear alive by sharing stories about him, he can easily cease to exist or at least stop stirring up trouble if he is forgotten. He can also be destroyed if all mirrors are destroyed, since Candyman's soul and secrets are held within mirrors, and he cannot access the physical world without these mirrors. He also has certain self-portraits and paintings from when he was an artist, and it is believed that he suffers physical harm whenever one of these paintings is destroyed. Candyman also largely relies on bees to attack his victims, and one can protect themselves to some extent by using a pesticide or a protective suit to protect oneself from the bees. Of course, Candyman's soul could also be trapped by using magic and sealing his spirits in the spiritual world, ensuring that he won't return to life and haunt more. Conclusion. To sum it up, Candyman was quite a scary entity who had appeared to haunt anyone who wished for his presence. He has become quite an urban legend due to his actions, and he also has a unique anatomy. The hook on his hand and the hive of bees following him truly made him stand out among other horror villains, and he most certainly ensured that no one would forget his name or his tragic story for a very long time. And if you liked our content today, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already, and in the meantime, have a good one and be safe. Thank you, everybody.